if your meta ads are spending all the budget on one or two ads within your campaigns or ad sets, then this is exactly what you need to do to solve this. And this is something that comes up all the time in my e-commerce programs, my up-level mastermind and my ecom blueprint programs, where we help e-commerce brands scale to record revenue months. So when it comes to meta, this is a heavily focused on topic for a lot of brands, because the truth is it is definitely the fastest and simplest way to scale your e-commerce business consistently. Caveat, it's not necessarily the easiest. And so this is one of the challenges that comes up where people launch ads, especially from like a top of funnel, meaning cold audience level with an Advantage Plus campaign typically. And what they see over time is the spend go to one or sometimes two ads, maybe three if they're lucky, but it doesn't go to all of the other ads within the campaign or ad set. And so my response to that is, well, twofold. I'll explain exactly why that specifically happens. Okay, first and foremost. So Meta is set up to basically optimize itself. Okay, it means that what it hypothesizes is going to get you the best results as the business owner, as the payer of the account, let's call it, giving money to them. It's going to send that out to the audience as a preference. Right, so this is why we basically split or test a number of ads all at once, all right? That we never go into a campaign or ad set with just one ad unless it's for a specific purpose. But right in the beginning, we give it as many inputs as we possibly can. My advice to brand owners is, look, you need, so let's call a minimum of say 5 ads. And we want to split the variation of what they actually are, okay? We don't have everything exactly the same. I've had a few people come into my world, into my programs, and they've got 5 ads that are like literally exactly the same, okay? So what you want is a variation in particularly content. Sure, you can have it as copy and headlines and stuff like that, but the main thing that Meta will look at is creative, right? Content. And so we're specifically talking about, images, talking about, videos, all right? And even within those categories, you can do a myriad of variations. So for videos, for example, honestly, like an iPhone type, it could be a UGC type, it could be a formal shoot, it could be, so many other things. And then there's the other formats of like carousel and some other formats as well. So you want to have a mixture in the ad set or the campaign just to begin with, because then what you're saying to Meta is say, okay, here's some choice that you've got. Go ahead and you decide what you think people will respond best to. All right. Now, what can sometimes happen there is Meta starts to favor one over the other. And that's exactly what the point we're trying to get to. It's like, okay, cool. What is Meta liking? What are people liking? And Meta will actually choose the format to serve out to the world based on our user experience. Okay, so it's going to say, is this a good video? Is this a good image? Is this a good destination page? Is this a good headline? Is this a good hook? There's so many things that it actually considers. Is this a trustworthy brand? Right? Are your 1%ers ticked off? Do you have your account information filled out? Like, there's all these things that we don't necessarily know impact, but do. And so the main priority for Meta is customer experience, user experience. Think about it like this. If someone has a bad experience on a Meta platform, let's just call it Instagram, because of your ad, they complain or they have an error when they click through or something happens where it's a bad experience. They would think, well, what will happen is that user will frown upon the experience, right? Maybe not to that extreme, but they're going to have a bad experience and they associate it with using the platform. What does that happen? Over time, if that happens too many times, they're going to stop using the platform. No one's going to use it. They all lose money, all right? Because we're going to stop advertising because we're not getting the results. All the money gets pulled out of the platforms to advertise. So it's all about user experience. So when you make ads, when you create ads, think about that. User experience, user experience, user experience. All right, what's best for the user, okay? Obviously, our goal is to make sales, but that's how Meta will favor you and your ads. You'll get cheaper cost per impressions, meaning cost to advertise, and you'll get cheaper cost per clicks, likely because of that cause and effect that you're getting cheaper impressions, right? Cheaper eyeballs. So that's the first thing that it kind of considers. When it comes to the spend, it's doing that filtration process all the time. Okay, Will likes videos, so send Will the video. John likes carousels, so send the carousel. Jane likes still images, so send her that. So that's a consideration process as well. But once an ad or two start to get some click-throughs, and especially if they start to get some sales, then they're going to continue to favor that because it's working. It's low-hanging fruit opportunity for Meta. Now, getting back to the point of this video when that happens, the advice that I give people is, this is fine, right? That sounds a bit strange to say, but this is fine. Yes, we want to test the other things, but I'll go through the process in how to do so. The fundamental rule is, if the ads are working, if the campaign is performing, if we're getting ROIs, if we're getting cost per acquisitions that are within our KPIs, then we want to disrupt it as little as possible. We don't want to force the budget to go anywhere else from what's working. All right. So that's just fundamental number one. Like, if that's happening and you're getting results, great. Don't panic. You're good. If we want to start to test the other ones, we can go through the following process. So if the ads are going well, fantastic. We can go move on to step 2. If they're not doing well, in terms of the spend going to all the ads and they're not actually getting the results, then just turn them off. And that will happen there is basically all the budget will get fed down to the other ones. They'll start to test and you follow the process of that if they're not getting the results. That's a very easy one. And if you've got 5 in there and none of them are working, then what do you need to do? We need to create more ads, more content, more variation. All right? Very, very simple, very straightforward. Don't go into this next step unless you have ads that are actually working. All right. Step 2 is if one is working, we want to isolate it or leave it in its little test tube as much as possible. We don't want to remove it and create like a winners campaign. That's a very old school, strategy that people used to use. I used to use it. But we want to disrupt it as little as possible. So we want to leave it within that existing ad set or campaign, right? But what we do with the rest of the ads that we want to test, we duplicate the campaign or the ad set, right? Depending on how it's structured. And we want to leave out the one that's getting all the spend in the other ad set or other campaign, all right? This way, it's got its own individual budget that's going to the winners ads over here. And then down below, it's like, cool, we want to keep testing that, okay? A really important consideration here is to not suffocate the one that's doing well. So like I said before, we want to keep it isolated. We want to give it as many inputs as possible and just leave it all nice and, cushioned and fluffy. Because as soon as you start to change things, I don't know if, how much experience you've had with ads, but if you start to change one thing here, one thing there, or if you suffocate a winning ad with lack of budget because you're trying to force it down to the testers, then it's going to be detrimental to your performance. So if anything, we want to keep everything exactly the same there. And if possible, put more budget that goes into the testing of the other ones. Because don't forget, you've got the winner up here. Sure, we want to keep trying to better it, but not at the detriment to its own current performance. And so that's what I say to people. I say, look, if you're getting the spend, if it's a tick, perfect. If it's not, then obviously just start turning it off. If it is a tick, then create a second ad set or campaign and feed separate budget to that, not suffocating the original winner, because we want that to be consistent, right? So this is a process that we basically rinse and repeat. It's nothing to do with your bad ads. Okay, some people come in and say, oh, Meta doesn't like it. Quick, let's create 10 more variations of ads. It's not that. It just hasn't had the chance to perform. Okay, now getting into, this is another sort of follow-up question. Well, how do I know if an ad's going to perform or not? In my experience, I've honestly been doing it for 13 years. I'm running ads for at least 10 of those. We want to give ads enough chance. So basically, what the KPI that I personally use is give a single ad, an individual ad, at least 2 times our desirable cost per acquisition. So let me explain that. Our desirable cost per acquisition, meaning cost per purchase, is approximately a third of our average order value. Okay, there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. Let's just use simple numbers. Say your average order value is $90. Okay, our desirable cost per acquisition from advertising is about 30, a third. Okay, a third. So that's what we want to see as a CPA. So to test an actual ad, we want to give it 2 times our CPA, so about $60. Now, obviously that might not be profitable for you, but it's just giving a little bit of extra to see if it can tick over. I've seen several circumstances where in that scenario, the ad has got no sales at like $1.50, right? But at $1.55, it ticks over 2 sales and we're back within KPI. So that's why we just give it that little bit of extra juice. And so that's the KPI you can use of like, is it working? Has it had enough time yet in that first initial ad set or campaign? And then also when you're testing other things, which you're following the same process, you can go through the same methodology. Has it spent 2 times our CPA KPI or not, right? If it's not, obviously keep it running. If it has, we flick off or leave on and repeat the process with the duplications. But this is something that comes up all the time because oftentimes we spend a lot of time in creation mode and it's, let's call it demoralizing a little bit to see ads not get the spend or the exposure that we think, especially when we think it's going to be a high performing ad, which is just our hypothesis. Again, Meta is much smarter than us. It has 55,000 touch points on every single person's profile, let alone the millions of calculations it's doing per second. So at some point, we just really have to kind of let go and let it do its thing. And only manipulate things based on certain structures or certain data that we've actually been through today. So look, I hope this is helpful for you. It's important just to keep it simple. It's important not to panic if things aren't getting spent. It's important just to know how we can obviously push more budget to other ads to increase performance and try and better our winners as well. Okay, so look, I hope this was valuable for you. If it was, love a like, love a subscribe, but I'm creating videos like this all the time, so make sure you're following along. If you want to know more about how we help e-commerce business, click on the link below, check it out. But other than that, thanks for being here and I'll see you in the next one.